Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and for today's video we are going to be doing a Valentine's Day themed romance recommendations video. For this I have about 7 books to recommend. Some of them I'm kind of just generally recommending authors. I personally haven't read tons of romance, and the romance that I do tend to read, it tends to be on like the sweeter side, number one, and also I tend to read I want to say softer romance in that it's not super smut heavy. There are some steamy scenes, but it's a lot more character development and watching the characters grow together. And these are more like contemporary romance, but most of these are like new adult contemporary romance. I'm not recommending any YA in this video just because that's not really what comes to my mind anymore when I think romance. First and foremost, I feel like I would be doing romance not a disservice if I didn't mention her first, but are you really a romance reader if you've never read anything from this author? I feel like the answer is no. And that is Penelope Douglas. I'm going to be recommending Punk 57. This is the only book that I've read by Penelope Douglas, and I personally didn't really love it, but I know people who love romance really love Penelope Douglas, and I've heard that this is like the best place to start, hence why this is the first one that I've read by her. It's not where I intend to stop. I gave this like a 4 out of 5 stars, so like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. While we are following characters in high school for this one, I would say that this is kind of geared toward an older demographic. Not to say that if you're in high school you can't read this, because that's not the case. This is literally following characters in high school. This one feels like a very real depiction of what high school kids actually act like nowadays. I should probably give you a synopsis. In this one, we are following Misha and Ryan, who are pen pals, have been since like the 3rd grade, and they are best friends, and their agreement is that they never want to meet like in person. They want to kind of keep everything anonymous because they like being able to share the really dark things without worrying about the humiliation of that person's judgment, even though they have come such a long way that they know each other pretty well and aren't really scared of the judgment necessarily that comes from the other person. They feel pretty accepted by each other. And then something happens where one of them discovers the other's identity and it kind of ruins everything. This is kind of like a darker version of You've Got Mail, I would say. It's been a few months since I read this, so I don't have the best recollection of it, but I really enjoyed it. It was a pretty quick read, and overall I would recommend this if you're looking for something a little bit more on the steamier side, because this is definitely probably like the heaviest amount of steam on this list. That doesn't mean it's like tons of it. I mean, I think there's a decent amount, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. The next author that I really want to talk about is Jasmine Guillory. So I physically have The Proposal and Party of Two. These are books 2 and 5 in her wedding date series. I have read 1, 2, 3, and now 5. The 4th one follows some older characters, so I just like kind of passed on that one, but I thoroughly enjoy Jasmine Guillory's writing. I really love it. This is honestly probably my least favorite in the series, but you can read them out of order. I'm currently reading this one and thoroughly loving it. I would say that the 3rd one, which is The Wedding Party, is my favorite, but these are super quick reads. I also read The Wedding Date in literally a day and loved that one as well. There are quite a few steamy scenes in this one as well if you're looking for that, and I really like the way that Jasmine Guillory writes them. But yeah, overall would recommend her books, and I think that this is like the only series she has out right now, but I think one of her books is being published later this year. But for right now, you could read like the first 4 or 5 of these books and they would be perfect for Valentine's Day. Like I said, they're also all super quick reads, so if you were just looking for a single book to read on Valentine's Day, these are probably what I would recommend. The next author, I guess, that I kind of want to recommend is Christina Lauren. So I have a couple of books on here by her. I have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this one is definitely like a sweeter one, definitely a little bit more sad, so if you're kind of looking for a good cry on Valentine's Day, because I've definitely been there before. I would recommend this one. It is, like I said, a super sweet story though. We're following characters that were best friends growing up and kind of developed a relationship, and then out of nowhere, our female main character just stopped talking to our male main character because something happened, and years later they're reconnecting and kind of going over their entire history and why they stopped talking in the first place. I loved this. This is my favorite Christina Lauren to date. Like I said, this one is a little bit more sad and honestly the most different from the rest of these books, but I still think it's worth the read. Even if you don't read it like necessarily as a feel-good romance on Valentine's Day, I think that the romance in here is super sweet, and I think that this one has the least amount of like sexual tension and like steamy scenes. I think there's like one in here because we're mainly following them when they're kids. So, and by kids I mean like teenagers, not like they're 7 or something. The other one that I want to recommend by Christina Lauren is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. This one is so much fun, and if you liked New Girl, the TV show, then I think you will absolutely love this one. Hazel, our main character, is very much like Jessica Day in that she's just kind of a little bit out there and says exactly what comes to mind, and sometimes it's weird, but she doesn't really care. And it's been a long time since I've read this one, so I don't really remember everything that happens. I'm pretty sure they decide to be friends with benefits maybe, and obviously it doesn't end up working out well. Or maybe, no, it's all coming back to me now. I remember what it's about. It's about these two characters who their love lives have not been successful, and so they decide to set each other up on blind dates that they think will genuinely be successful, but they end up not being successful. And so at the end of these dates, they end up coming together and kind of consoling each other, comforting each other that it wasn't successful, and through that they end up kind of forming a romantic relationship, and I love it. It's so cute. It is probably my favorite like more romance by Christina Lauren, whereas Love in Other Words is kind of like a sweeter story. It is romantic, but this one is more like a traditional romance, and this is my favorite of theirs for that. So I don't forget, we're going to talk about the last one that I don't have physically with me, and that is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is book 2 in the Brown Sisters series. Book 3 comes out March 9th, I believe, and I'm very excited about it. It is called Act Your Age, Eve Brown. So each of these books is following a different sister from the Brown family. In the first one, we follow Chloe Brown. I personally didn't love that one. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, but most people do, so my opinion is definitely not majority, but I did really enjoy Take a Hint, Danny Brown. This one features the fake dating trope, and there is also a portrayal of mental illness for a male, which I think is so rare and I really enjoyed. He has anxiety, but content warning for loss of a loved one, loss of a parent in that book. And like I mentioned, there is mental illness representation for Zafir, our male love interest, and that's what people tend to highlight about this book as their favorite thing. But my personal favorite thing was how hardworking and motivated Danny was, and how unwilling she was to let a romantic relationship or person kind of get in the way of that. And I mean, that's kind of talked about throughout the book because it is like a really big point, but I just love that she's so driven. I haven't seen tons of female characters that are like Danny. I mean, she doesn't rest, and so that's definitely an issue, and that is also mentioned and dealt with in the book. So I'm not saying that like it's her way of handling things is like something to strive for, but I do think that there is something to be said about her work ethic, and I do think it is really impressive. And that's just something that I loved and needed to see, if I'm being honest. I definitely think there's a middle, and Danny finds that. But yeah, I just loved it. She's so driven. So good. The last romance recommendation I have for Valentine's Day is The Romance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. There are currently 3 books out in this series. These are again companion novels, so you can read the series out of order if you'd like, but each one follows a different character that you've kind of met and seen in previous novels. So in this one, we are following Gavin Scott, and he's a really successful baseball player. All of the men featured in this are really successful, but what's lacking is something's going wrong in their romantic relationships. And so Gavin is trying to save his marriage, and some of Gavin's friends take him in and they introduce him to the Bromance Book Club, where they read romance books and kind of try and learn something from them that will teach them how to save their relationship, teach them what women genuinely want, and how to literally just be better at being a partner in a relationship. And I really, really enjoyed this. I'm also going to be reading Undercover Bromance, hopefully really, really soon, because I love these books and I think they're so, so great. And I think I also read this one in like a day or two. Those are all of my romance recommendations for you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you found something that you want to read or sparks your interest. I know I don't do tons of like romance centered videos, but let me know if you guys want those. I love you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.